My husband made me sit behind a pillar at his own promotion party. Not beside him, not at his table. Behind a pillar, like I was something shameful he needed to hide. I wore my best dress that night, the navy one with the small pearl buttons I'd saved 3 months to buy. I did my hair the way he used to say he liked it, pulled back, soft and neat. I thought this was our night, our celebration. 23 years I'd stood beside that man. 23 years where I'd worked 2 jobs while he finished his MBA. 23 years I'd packed his lunches, ironed his shirts, believed in him when nobody else did. But that night, Marcus looked at me across the hotel ballroom and pointed to a small table. In the corner, behind a concrete pillar, away from everyone. "Just sit there for now, Diane," he'd said, not even meeting my eyes. "It's just easier this way." "Hey, family, quick question for you. How does this new voice sound in your ears? Is it comfortable, clear, easy to follow? If you love it, please hit the like button and drop a quick comment so I know I'm on the right track. If it's not your taste, don't hesitate to tell me in the comments too. Your feedback is what helps me adjust and grow. And if there's another voice style you'd love me to try, just say it. I'm here because of you, and I've stayed consistent because you keep watching, correcting, and supporting me. Let's keep growing together. Now let me tell you how I ended up there, friend. How a woman who once believed in love ended up hiding in shadows while her husband shined in the light. The promotion party was at the Grand Meridian Hotel downtown. Marcus had been talking about this vice president position for 2 years. Every night at dinner, he'd go on about the office with the corner view, the salary bump, the respect he'd finally get. And every night, I'd smile and say, "You've earned it, baby. You've worked so hard." I believed that. I really did. The morning of the party, I'd asked him what time we should leave. He was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie, the silk one I'd given him for our anniversary. "We?" he'd said, like the word confused him. "Yes, Marcus, we." The invitation said spouses were invited. He'd paused then, his hands going still on that tie. "Right. Yeah. Of course. 7 o'clock. But I should have known something was wrong. I should have heard it in the way his voice went flat, in the way he wouldn't look at me in that mirror. We arrived separately. He'd said he needed to get there early to prepare. So I'd taken an Uber, walked into that beautiful ballroom alone, scanning the crowd for my husband's face. I found him by the bar, laughing, his head thrown back, his hand on the shoulder of a woman in a pale blue dress. She was young, maybe 30. Pretty in that easy way some women are, like they've never had to fight for anything. When Marcus saw me walking toward him, his smile died. He excused himself, met me halfway across the floor, and that's when he said it. That's when he pointed to the pillar. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" I'd asked. "I'm your wife." "I know that, Diane." His voice was low, tight. "But tonight is important. These are important people. Just sit there for a little while. Please." The way he said please made it sound like a threat, so I did what I'd always done. I swallowed the hurt. I walked to that table behind the pillar. I sat down, and I watched. Friend, before I tell you what happened next, before I tell you about the stranger who changed everything, please tap that subscribe button. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to share, what I found that night, it's something every woman needs to hear. Don't let YouTube hide this story from you. Hit subscribe so you'll know how this ends. From behind that pillar, I could see everything. and everything hurt. I watched Marcus move through that crowd like a king, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. His colleagues kept coming up to him, slapping his back, raising their glasses, and every single one of them had their wives beside them, right there. Visible, valued, but not Marcus. Marcus kept glancing back at me, making sure I stayed where he'd put me. The woman in the pale blue dress stayed close to him. Too close. She'd lean in when she talked to him, her hand touching his arm, his shoulder. And Marcus? Marcus let her. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to walk over there and ask him what was happening. But fear held me down. Fear of making a scene. Fear of embarrassing him. Fear that if I stood up, if I claimed my place as his wife, he'd look at me with that cold anger I'd seen more and more lately. So I sat. And I became smaller with every minute. The waiters passed by my table without stopping. Other guests walked past like I wasn't even there. One couple actually used my table to set down their empty glasses before moving on. I was invisible. And then I started to cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just silent tears running down my face, ruining the makeup I'd so carefully applied. That's when I felt it. A gentle hand on my shoulder. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I looked up. A man stood beside my table. Older, maybe 60. He had kind eyes, the kind that crinkle at the corners, that have seen things. He wore a simple dark suit, a name tag that said, Robert Chen, Executive Board. "I'm fine," I whispered, wiping my face quickly. "I'm fine." But Robert Chen didn't walk away. Instead, he pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. "May I?" he asked, even though he was already sitting. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "I've been watching you for the last 20 minutes, he said softly. "And I've been watching Marcus Walker too. That's your husband, isn't it?" My throat got tight. "Yes." "Why are you sitting back here alone?" The question was simple, but the answer was so complicated, so heavy, so full of shame that I couldn't speak it out loud. Robert leaned forward. "My wife passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. Before she died, she told me something I'll never forget. She said, 'Robert, I wasted too many years making myself small for people who should have been making me feel big. Don't waste your years, Mom. Whatever's happening here tonight, don't let it make you small.'" Something in his words cracked something in me. And before I knew what I was doing, before I could stop myself, I said, "He's ashamed of me." Robert's face went sad, not pitying, just sad, like he understood. "Then he's a fool," Robert said, "and fools always get found out." He stood up then, offered me his hand. "Come on. Let me get you some water. And then, if you want, I'll walk you out of here with your head held high." But I didn't take his hand. Not yet. Because something else was happening. Something I'd been too hurt, too small, too invisible to notice until that very moment. Marcus's jacket, the one he'd draped over a chair near the bar when the room got warm. It was right there, 10 feet away, and his checkbook was in that jacket. I knew because I'd seen him slip it into the inside pocket before we left the house. And suddenly, I needed to know. I needed to see what Marcus had been hiding. "Wait," I said to Robert. "Just wait 1 minute." I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I walked to that chair. I picked up Marcus's jacket, and I reached into the inside pocket. The checkbook was there. Leather. Expensive. The kind Marcus had bought when he got his last raise. I opened it. and what I saw made the room tilt. 3 checks, all written in the last month, all to the same boutique. Mirabelle's, one for $850, one for $1,200, one for $2,400, and in the memo line of the last check, in Marcus's handwriting, blue dress, 4K. I looked up, across the room, at the woman in the pale blue dress standing next to my husband, and I knew who Kay was. I knew what those checks meant. I knew why Marcus had hidden me behind a pillar, but what I didn't know yet was what I was going to do about it. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped that checkbook. $4,450. $4,450 spent on another woman's clothes while I'd been saving grocery money to buy my own dress. I flipped back further. More checks. A florist. $340. A hotel. The Riverside Inn. $890. Another hotel charge. $1,200. All in the last 3 months. All while Marcus had been telling me we needed to tighten our budget. All while he'd asked me to skip my sister's birthday dinner because we can't afford to eat out right now. Robert Chen was still standing beside me, and I felt his presence like an anchor, keeping me from floating away into rage or grief or both. "What did you find?" he asked quietly. I couldn't answer. I just handed him the checkbook. He looked at it for a long moment. His jaw tightened. Then he looked across the room at Marcus and the woman in blue, and something shifted in his kind eyes. Something hard and righteous. "What's her name?" Robert asked. "I don't know." My voice came out scratchy, broken. "The memo just says K." "Kendra," Robert said. "Kendra Mitchell. She's Marcus's new executive assistant. Started 4 months ago." 4 months. The same time Marcus started coming home late. The same time he started saying he was too tired to talk to me. The same time he stopped touching me at all. I looked at that pale blue dress again, the one my husband's money had bought, and something inside me that had been bending for 23 years finally snapped. But I didn't move. Not yet. Because here's what nobody tells you about betrayal, friend. They don't tell you that the moment you know for sure, the moment you have proof in your hands, you still have to choose what to do with it. And that choice is terrifying. I could walk out right then, quiet, dignified, invisible, just like Marcus wanted. Or I could stay. I could speak. I could become visible in a way that would change everything. "What are you going to do?" Robert asked. "I don't know," I whispered. "If I say something here in front of all these people, in front of his colleagues, I'll ruin him." "He ruined himself," Robert said. "You'd just be telling the truth." But it wasn't that simple. It never is. Because Marcus was still my husband, the father of my 2 grown children, the man I'd loved since I was 23 years old. And some part of me, some stupid, loyal, loving part, still didn't want to hurt him, even though he'd been hurting me for months. I was about to put the checkbook back, about to choose silence when I saw something else. A receipt tucked into the back pocket. Hotel stationery. The Riverside Inn again. I pulled it out. It was a room service bill. 2 steaks, a bottle of wine, champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries. Dated 3 weeks ago. The same night Marcus had told me he was working late on the Henderson merger. But it was the handwriting on the bottom that made my blood stop. Someone had written a note on the receipt in looping feminine script. "Thank you for the most perfect night. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Kay. Until we don't have to hide anymore. She thought this was going somewhere. She thought Marcus was going to leave me for her. Maybe he was. Maybe tonight, this promotion party, this celebration, maybe this was supposed to be the beginning of his new life, his fresh start. And I was the old life he needed to tuck away behind a pillar until he figured out how to get rid of me completely. Robert must have seen something change in my face because he spoke again, softer this time. My wife, Helen, before she got sick. She was the strongest woman I knew, ran her own business, raised 3 kids. But there was a time, early in our marriage, when I made her feel small. I was young and stupid, and thought my career was more important than her feelings. One night she packed a bag. She said, "Robert, I love you, but I will not disappear for you. If you can't see me, I'll find someone who will." He paused, his eyes distant with memory. I saw her after that, really saw her, and I spent the next 35 years making sure she knew it. But Diane, your husband isn't seeing you right now, and from what I can tell, he hasn't been seeing you for a long time. So you have to decide. Are you going to keep disappearing? Or are you going to make him see you one last time? I looked down at that receipt in my hand, at that woman's handwriting, at her hope for a future with my husband, and I made my choice. "I need you to do something for me," I said to Robert, surprised by how steady my voice suddenly sounded. "Name it." "In about 10 minutes, Marcus is supposed to give a speech, a thank you toast to everyone who supported him. I need you to make sure that microphone works, and I need you to make sure nobody stops me when I walk up to that podium." Robert's eyebrows rose. "You're going to speak?" "I'm going to tell the truth." A slow smile spread across Robert's face. "Helen would have liked you." He squeezed my shoulder once, then walked away to do whatever it was powerful men on executive boards do to make things happen. And I stood there, alone again, holding evidence of my husband's betrayal and my own upcoming courage. The next 8 minutes were the longest of my life. I watched Marcus across the room. He was laughing at something Kendra said, his hand resting on the small of her back. Comfortable, familiar, like they'd done this 1,000 times. How had I not seen it? How had I missed the way he looked at her? But I knew how. I'd missed it because I'd been too busy trying to be the perfect wife, too busy trying to earn his attention back, too busy making myself smaller and quieter and easier so he wouldn't have any reason to pull away. I'd been competing for my own husband's love while he'd already given it to someone else. My children's faces flashed through my mind. Derek, my son, working in Seattle. Maya, my daughter, teaching in Boston. What would they think when they heard about this? Would they blame me? Would they ask what I'd done wrong? But then I thought about Maya, my strong, fierce Maya, who'd left her ex-boyfriend the moment he tried to control her. Maya, who I'd raised to never accept less than she deserved. What would Maya think if she knew I'd sat behind a pillar, invisible and silent, while her father paraded another woman around? She'd be heartbroken. Not for me, but because of me. Because I'd taught her to be strong, and then I'd failed to be strong myself. A man in a hotel uniform started tapping the microphone. The crowd quieted. Someone dimmed the lights slightly, putting a spotlight on the small stage area where Marcus was already walking up, Kendra right beside him. This was it. Marcus took the microphone. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he began, his voice booming through the speakers. "This promotion means the world to me, and I couldn't have done it without the support of so many people in this room." He started naming colleagues, mentors, his boss, He didn't name me. 23 years of support, and he didn't name me. I started walking, out from behind that pillar, through the crowd. People turned to look at me, probably wondering who this woman was, moving through the ballroom like she had somewhere important to be. Marcus saw me. Our eyes met across 30 feet of expensive carpet, and I saw it flash across his face. Fear. Kendra saw me too. She touched Marcus's arm, leaning in to whisper something. But Marcus waved her off, his eyes locked on mine, probably trying to figure out what I was doing, probably hoping I'd just walk to the bathroom or the exit. But I didn't stop walking. I reached the stage. Marcus's hand tightened on the microphone. "Diane," he said low and warning. Not into the microphone, just to me. "Not now." "Yes, now," I said, and I held up the checkbook where only he could see it, the colour drained from his face. "Ladies and gentlemen, sir," I said, loud enough that people near the stage could hear, "I'm Diane Walker, Marcus's wife, the woman he made sit behind a pillar tonight because he was ashamed to have me beside him." The room went silent, completely silent. 200 people holding their breath. Marcus reached for me, tried to grab my arm. "Diane, stop. You're embarrassing yourself." "No," I said, pulling away from him. "I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference." And then I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I took the microphone right out of my husband's hand. "My husband just thanked everyone who supported him," I said. Into that microphone, my voice carrying to every corner of that ballroom. But he forgot to mention the wife who worked 2 jobs to put him through business school. He forgot to mention the woman who raised his children while he built his career. And he definitely forgot to mention Kendra Mitchell, his executive assistant, who he spent $4,450 on in the last month alone. Gasps. Actual gasps rippling through the crowd. Kendra's face went white. Marcus lunged for the microphone. "Give that back!" But Robert Chen was suddenly there, stepping between us. "Let her speak." And I wasn't done yet, not even close. Because I hadn't told them about the hotels yet, or the note, or the most devastating thing I'd found in that checkbook, the thing I hadn't even told Robert about. The check Marcus had written yesterday morning, before we came to this party, made out to a divorce attorney for a $5,000 retainer. The room erupted, not in gasps this time, but in chaos. People talking over each other, phones coming out, Marcus's boss pushing through the crowd toward the stage. But I kept talking. Because once you start telling the truth after years of swallowing it, you can't stop. It comes pouring out like water from a broken dam. "Yesterday morning," I said into that microphone, my voice surprisingly steady, "my husband wrote a check to Davidson and Rose Family Law, $5,000. I know because I saw the carbon copy in this checkbook. What I didn't know until right now was that he was planning to divorce me. I didn't know that while I was getting ready for his celebration tonight, he was already planning his exit." Marcus's face had gone from white to red. "You had no right to go through my things." "I had every right." My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. "I'm your wife, Marcus. For 23 years I've been your wife. I earned the right to know when you stopped wanting me to be." Kendra was crying now, her perfect makeup running. She tried to leave the stage, but the crowd had pressed in too close. She was trapped there with us, part of the scene she'd helped create. Ma'am, Marcus's boss, a silver-haired man named Mr. Peterson, stepped onto the stage. "Perhaps we should take this somewhere private." "No." I turned to him, and I saw Robert Chen nod at me from the crowd. encouraging me. With respect, Mr. Peterson, this is exactly where it needs to happen, because my husband made me sit behind a pillar tonight. He hid me away like I was something shameful while he celebrated with all of you, while he stood beside her. I pointed at Kendra. And I need you all to see that I'm not the shameful one. He is. The silence that followed was different, heavier. It wasn't shock anymore. It was understanding. These people, these colleagues who'd known Marcus for years, they were looking at him differently now, seeing him differently, and he knew it. You don't understand, Marcus said, his voice desperate now. He wasn't talking to me anymore. He was talking to the crowd, trying to salvage something. This isn't what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, I said quietly. And you know what the saddest part is? I would have forgiven you. If you'd come to me 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever this started, and told me the truth. If you'd said, Diane, I'm not happy. I've met someone else. I want something different. It would have destroyed me, but I would have let you go with dignity. I loved you that much. My voice broke on the word loved, past tense. Because somewhere between finding that checkbook and taking this microphone, I'd stopped loving Marcus Walker. But you didn't give me that, I continued. You made me small. You hid me. You spent our money on her while telling me we couldn't afford things for us. You lied every single day, and tonight you tried to erase me completely. Marcus reached for me one more time, and this time there was something like genuine pain in his eyes. Diane, please. No, I said. I'm done pleasing you. I handed the microphone to Mr. Peterson, handed the checkbook to Marcus, and I walked off that stage with my head high. The crowd parted for me. And as I walked through, something unexpected happened. Women started speaking to me, touching my arm, saying quiet things like, good for you, and you're so brave, and I wish I'd done that. One woman, someone I'd never met, pressed a business card into my hand and whispered, I'm a divorce attorney. Call me. First consultation is free. Another woman, older, with kind eyes behind glasses, said, my husband did the same thing 15 years ago. I stayed quiet. I've regretted it every day since. You did the right thing. But the person waiting for me at the ballroom exit wasn't a stranger. It was Kendra. She'd somehow made it off the stage, through the crowd, and she was standing by the door, mascara streaked down her face, that expensive blue dress looking suddenly cheap under the harsh exit lights. Mrs. Walker, she said, her voice small, I need to talk to you. I should have walked past her. I should have left her standing there. But something in her face, something broken and young, made me stop. What could you possibly have to say to me? I asked. He told me you were separated. The words came out in a rush. He said you'd been living separate lives for years. He said the divorce was almost final, that it was just paperwork. He said, her voice cracked. He said you didn't love him anymore. I stared at her. This girl who'd helped destroy my marriage actually believed she was the hero of this story. She thought she'd saved Marcus from a loveless marriage. We live in the same house, I said quietly. We sleep in the same bed. Last week I made him his favorite dinner for his birthday, pot roast with those little potatoes he likes. He told me it was perfect. He kissed my forehead and said, "Thank you, baby." Kendra's face crumpled. He called me baby too. And there it was, the thing that broke something in both of us. We were both his baby, both of us believing we were special, both of us so wrong. "How old are you?" I asked her. 28. 28. I had shoes older than her. Did you love him? I asked. She nodded, tears streaming faster. I thought he loved me too. Maybe he did, I said. Maybe he loved us both. Or maybe Marcus Walker only loves Marcus Walker, and we were just convenient. I started to leave, but Kendra grabbed my arm. What's going to happen now? She asked. To him? To his job? I looked back through the ballroom doors. Marcus was surrounded by his colleagues, by Mr. Peterson, by Robert Chen. They were talking in low, serious voices. Marcus's career, the one I'd helped him build, was probably over, at least at this company. I don't know, I said honestly. And Kendra, I don't care. I pulled my arm free and walked out into the night. The air was cold, clean. It stung my face and made me realize I was crying again. But these tears really today feared lighter, like I was crying out all the years of making myself small, all the times I'd swallowed hurt, all the moments I'd chosen his comfort over my dignity. Robert Chen found me in the parking lot 15 minutes later. I was sitting on a bench, still in my navy dress, my good shoes pinching my feet. You okay? He asked, sitting beside me. No, I said, but I will be. He nodded like he understood. Helen used to say that the bravest thing a woman can do is choose herself. Even when it costs everything. It did cost everything, I whispered. My marriage, my life as I knew it. Maybe my kids' respect when they find out I made a scene. Your kids will understand, Robert said firmly. And if they don't at first, they will eventually. Because you taught them something tonight. You taught them that love shouldn't make you disappear. We sat there quietly for a moment. Then Robert stood and offered me his hand, the same way he had earlier in the evening, back when I was still invisible behind that pillar. This time, I took it. Can I give you a ride home? He asked. Home, I repeated. I don't even know if I have a home anymore. You do, Robert said. It might not be the same home, but you have one. And tomorrow, you start building it into whatever you want it to be. He drove me to my sister's house. I couldn't face going back to the house I shared with Marcus. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. My sister Teresa opened the door in her bathrobe, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without a single question. It was only later, after I'd showered and borrowed her clothes and finally sat down at her kitchen table with a cup of tea, that I told her everything. I'm proud of you, Teresa said when I finished. Scared for you, worried about what comes next, but so proud. I destroyed his career, I said, in front of everyone. He destroyed his marriage, Teresa corrected. In private, for months. You just made it public. She was right. I knew she was right. But it didn't make the fear go away. That night, lying in Teresa's guest room, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the evening. Marcus's face when I took the microphone. Kendra's tears. The crowd's silence. Robert Chen's kindness. My phone buzzed. 37 missed calls from Marcus. 15 text messages. I didn't read them. But there was one message I did read, from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Walker, this is Robert Chen. I hope you don't mind. I got your number from the company directory. I wanted you to know that Mr. Peterson asked Marcus to resign tonight. He'll receive a severance package, but he's no longer with the company. I thought you should hear it from someone who cares. You did the right thing tonight. Don't let anyone tell you different. Robert. I stared at that message for a long time. Marcus had lost his job. The promotion he'd worked for, betrayed me for, hidden me away for, gone. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt sorry. but all I felt was free. The next morning, I called that divorce attorney whose card had been pressed into my hand. Her name was Michelle Santos, and her voice was warm and professional. "I saw what happened last night," Michelle said. "It's already all over social media. You're kind of famous." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Someone posted a video. It's been shared about 50,000 times. People are calling you the behind-the-pillar queen. You're trending." I wanted to throw up, but Michelle kept talking. "Listen, I know this feels scary, but Diane, you have leverage now. Public sympathy. Marcus can't hide anything in this divorce. The judge will see him for exactly what he is. We're going to make sure you get everything you deserve." "I don't want revenge," I said quietly. "I just want out." "Getting out is the revenge," Michelle said. "Trust me." Over the next 3 weeks, my life became something I didn't recognize. The video went viral. People I'd never met sent messages of support. Magazines wanted interviews. Someone started a hashtag. Seen, not hidden. Marcus tried to fight the divorce at first. Then he tried to negotiate. Then, when he realized I had copies of everything, the checks, the receipts, the note from Kendra, he just gave up. The house went to me. Half his pension, half of everything we'd built together. And Kendra? I heard she left town, took a job in another state. I hoped she learned something from all this. I hoped she never let a man make her the other woman again. My kids were angry at first, not at me, but at their father. Maya flew home and held me while I cried. Derek called Marcus and told him exactly what he thought of him. They'd both figured out months ago that something was wrong. They'd just been waiting for me to figure it out too. 6 months after that promotion party, I stood in my kitchen now, Marcus long moved out, and made myself pot roast with little potatoes. Not because it was Marcus's favorite, but because it was mine. And I ate it at the table, in full light, with no pillars to hide behind. Friend, thank you for staying with me to the end of this story, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever had to choose between peace and dignity, I hope my story reminds you, you deserve to be seen. Please hit that subscribe button. Let's keep walking this journey together. And if something in this story touched your heart, drop a comment and tell me. I read every single one. I've picked another story for you. It should be on your screen now. A woman who discovered her worth in the most unexpected way. I hope you'll join me there too. Until next time, friend, stand tall, be seen, and never ever let anyone make you sit behind a pillar.